Right. For those of you joining us today for the first time, welcome. We are so excited for you to be joining in on Par Dreamin' Day 2. I'm Courtney Trenelia with Sercante, and I'm here to introduce Jen Kazin from Green Key as she shares her insights into how to improve your marketing ROI reporting by utilizing contact roles in Salesforce. Welcome, Jen.
Welcome. Thank you for the introduction, Courtney. So like Courtney said, my name is Jen Kazin. I'm an independent Pardot consultant, and I want to talk to you about contact roles and how you can effectively add them. So my talking points here are campaign influence, why marketers need contact roles, what most companies are doing, and I'm also going to give you two better alternatives. So my first 3 points just kind of go through some background and kind of level sets everyone. You really want to stick around because a lot of my key insights are on the very last point when I start to show you here's what you can do to add contact roles more effectively. And I'm going to tell my story through Erin. Erin is actually a real person, not just a cartoon character like you see here, but she's actually a marketer at a large enterprise company, at a healthcare company. She was hired as an event coordinator. She had a huge personality, and she's kind of was the girl who planned all the events. So she came onto this small marketing team, but they were really not leveraging Pardot. Their marketing tactics were very basic. They were mostly just sending emails through Pardot. And I remember Erin coming to me saying, we can do so much better. What can we do? One of her key problems were, she was like, we have a marketing budget and we're not sure what to do with it. Should we spend it on Google, a white paper, a trade show? She's like, we have no idea. So fast forward, and Erin and I worked together getting her Pardot up to speed. But there was one key thing that Erin did when I was working with her. She showed the marketing touch points on leads with opportunities won. And I remember her telling me that story because we were, having a normal session, and she came and said, Jen, I had my report in my hand. She goes, I went to the meeting with the marketing executives and the leaders in the company. And she goes, I showed them, here's all the leads that marketing has touched. And then all the corresponding opportunities that came with it. And that was pivotal. It was game changing for them. She said, all of a sudden it opened up so much more discussions about what what marketing's doing today, what we're planning to do. She goes, we just all of a sudden got a seat at the table. It really changed her culture of her company and how marketing was received. And I said, it doesn't surprise me, Erin, because that's campaign influence. That's Pardot's most influential marketing reporting. You might hear people use terms like first touch, even touch, last touch. But campaign influence is a way for marketers to tie their campaigns to revenues. So in the little visual here, you have things like a webinar, an email nurture, a trade show. Those are all marketing initiatives. And anytime a prospect engages with those campaigns, campaign influence is going to show how revenues tie with that. I also like to say that it really changes that conversation where we can only talk about things like how many touches, how many clicks on the email, how many form submissions. And upper management, they don't care that much about that. But when you can go to upper management with campaign influence and say things like, here's our marketing initiatives. We touched 27 opportunities for $8.3 million. Or whatever number makes sense for your company. That really turns head. That gets attention. So here's an example of the kind of report that Erin showed her management. So you can see on the left here, we have ABM, advertising, content. So these are campaign types. So essentially, anytime somebody engaged with Erin's content or her team's content, the marketers added that name into the campaign. And then this report shows the name of the contact, the corresponding opportunity, and of course, the opportunity amount. So this is what really got the attention from management. Now, I'm not planning to go into detail with campaign influence. If you didn't catch Bill Feder's presentation yesterday, He had a great presentation and a session on secrets and mystery of campaign influence. I recommend you catch the recording if you haven't seen it. He'll go into some more details on setup of campaign influence. Another good one that relates to my topic today, Eric Molly, he's going to talk about opportunities in Salesforce. And Eric and I talked, and we have some commonality as well. And so he also has some good insights on campaign influence and using opportunities. All right, so I got you on board. Campaign influence. Like I said, it has a lot of meaningful marketing reporting for marketers. But here's the catch. Campaign influence doesn't work without contact roles. So if I had a sound effect button right now, it would be cars screeching. Okay, hold up. Because what I often see is so many companies, they get their campaign structure set up. They have a beautiful campaign hierarchy, and they're doing all the work, and they have all the automation. So they're adding campaign members, but then they don't have contact roles. So therefore they can't get that connection into the opportunities to get that ROI reporting. And now you might say, well, what do you mean by a contact role? What is that? So here's just a screenshot of an opportunity. So you can see it's an opportunity. It's called Lumber Opportunity Q1. So in this example, Brian Nelson is my salesperson. So this is the opportunity owner. And Brian, the salesperson, is talking to Sal Smith. And so Brian here has correctly added a contact role. He has added Sal Smith to the opportunity. So in order to get campaign influence, you have to have contact roles populated. You need to have both. You need to have both ends to get that campaign influence connection. So Sal Smith, marketers need to do their job in adding Sal Smith as a campaign member, but you also need Sal Smith added as a contact role in the opportunity, just like I showed you in the previous screen. So when you have campaign influence turned on and you have these two ends completed, that's when you get that connection. Then all of a sudden behind the scenes, the data flows and you're able to get those campaign influence reports. And here's just an example of to follow along what it looks like in the system. So again, I have Sal Smith. His name has been added. He's a contact. He's added to this campaign called webinar. And then I also have Sal Smith added as a contact role for the opportunity called Lumber Opportunity Q1. Now, here is what I see a lot. If I was doing a prison wall tally, this is what it would look like. This is my visual representation of what I see when I talk to companies using Pardot and trying to track opportunity contact roles. I see many, many companies who do not have their contact roles properly added. Every once in a while, I might cross one. And so I'll be like, hey, wow, you have contact roles on your opportunities. That's great. But then when I get in there and look and have a deeper discussion, what I find out is, well, the salesperson truly talks to 2 to 3 people at each account, but they've only got maybe one contact role added. So again, a problem, because you definitely want to make sure that you have your contact roles completely filled out. And you want those salespeople to add all the names of all the people that they're talking with. So this slide is why I decided to choose this topic, because I see so many companies want campaign influence. They're doing their side on the marketing, but they don't have access or don't know how to get those contact roles on. So to get started, here's where I recommend. First thing is probably check your contact roles. So you might be sitting there listening to the session going, okay, I don't even know where we're at. Do we have some? I think we have some, maybe. So here's a good report to run to check to see what's the status of your contact roles. I run this, I think, with almost all of my clients. I recommend starting with a custom report type. I like this because that way I can run one report for my opportunities, and it's going to list all my opportunities, and I'm going to be able to see which ones have contact roles and which ones do not. So to do that, again, you probably need Salesforce Administrator access. Just go up into the top right corner and hit Setup. And then in the quick find box on the left, you just type report types, choose new custom report type. And here I have the primary object of opportunities. I've labeled it opportunities with and without contact roles, and I've stored this in the opportunities category. Then if you just hit next on the bottom with report types, it'll automatically populate opportunities as the primary object. You would just have to go select contact roles in this dropdown for B. And you also want to choose the bottom radio dial, because the system will automatically by default have the top one. And this is why we set up the custom report type, is because I want to see opportunities that both with and without contact roles. So that's the bottom choice. So once my custom report type is created, then I can just go back into my report object. So you just simply go back to the reports, new reports. You just go into the opportunities, and you should be able to find this report type that you just created, opportunities with and without contact roles. And so here's just a little example of a very basic report that I ran. So a lot of times when I have this custom report type, I will run a report that shows me, okay, show me all the opportunities that were created in the last year. And maybe I'll exclude anything close. I'll filter out closed lost. But you can see here, I have the opportunity name. So in the left column, here's a list of all my opportunities. And then full name, these are the opportunities that have contact roles on it. So these are the names of the contacts in the contact role. And so you can see this one, it looks pretty good because I've got 1,246 opportunities with a full name next to it. So those have contact roles. But then from there on, they become blank. And that's a very common situation. And this is just a screenshot. I'm not sure if I had kept scrolling down, how much further. So again, it's very common for me to see only 20% of opportunities have contact roles. Or some people think they're pretty good, but they still only have 70%. So the problem with that is that if you only have 70% of your contact roles populated, I would argue your campaign influence, even if you are 100% getting everybody added to campaigns, if you only have 70% of your contact roles populated, your campaign influence, best case, is only 70% accurate. And that's really hard for upper management to get behind when you can't be confident in the numbers. Okay, so what are other companies doing? If this is such a common problem, everyone must have it. So how do you fix this? I see a lot of things. So let's just go through what I typically see. First of all, usually the first attempt is we're just going to train the sales team. This is important. We need to get this marketing reporting. And so they just train. They say everybody needs to add a contact role or multiple contact roles. And even with best intentions, salespeople are salespeople. So those salespeople sometimes get busy and they forget, or they're on vacation. So inevitably, best efforts usually still don't pan out. Number two, I often sometimes see a validation rule of some type. And that means like when the opportunity gets to a certain stage, there might be some kind of process builder and flow combination that says, hey, before you can advance, you need to add a contact role. So, that's not bad. It's better than having it blank. But what happens with that usually is that once the salesperson adds one contact role, it doesn't require them to add any more. And then you're back into that same situation I said earlier, where, that salesperson is probably talking to 2, 3, 4 people, but they only have one contact role in the opportunity. And, that's going to curtail your marketing report results. Number 3, this is another example of what I see is the Salesforce administrator. They might hide the ability to create a new opportunity from the opportunity object, because when you do that, then the opportunity, it doesn't require a contact role. So they might train them and say, okay, if you want to create an opportunity, you need to go to the contact, go to the related list, and then add the opportunity. Because if you follow that path, then one contact role will get added. But like I said, 2 and 3, I have the same problems. One person is going to get added, and I'm still missing some of the other names that probably should be attached. The fourth one, this is actually what Erin did. You can see Erin standing there with her arms crossed and a frown face, because I asked her, I said, well, hey, you put that report together. How did you do that? Because I didn't have any automation in place for her at that point. And she's like, oh, I manually did it. She's like, I pulled all the campaign members and then I, ran a report for all the opportunities. And she goes, I cross-checked them and then manually added them by importing, spreadsheets, VLOOKUPs, and importing them back up. So she was doing that monthly at the end of every month to kind of keep up. So it's a lot of work, right? Manual work, tedious work. And so again, there has not been a really good solution for this campaign influence, which I think is very valuable. So that brings me to, like I said, the key parts of the presentation, the session here is like, let's talk about 2 better ways to get this job done. I'm impartial. I think both of these are pretty robust ways. The first one is an AppExchange package, and the second one is a flow. So let's get started with this. So let's talk about an AppExchange package. It's called Automated Opportunity Contact Roles. So if you are comfortable or get your Salesforce administrator to help you, you simply go to Setup, and then in the quick find box, you can go to the AppExchange, and you can choose Automated Opportunity Contact Roles. And you're going to see a screen. It comes up like this. This is actually from Sercante. So Sercante put this together. Sercante is also the sponsor of Pardot. I am not getting paid or any commission from Sercante to do this. I've just used the app and I think it works pretty well. And so I'm endorsing it and encouraging people to try it as well. It's pretty easy though with the AppExchange. You simply follow the install wizard, and I have a couple screenshots. I'll talk that through with you. It is a paid app. It's not free. You can see here it's $5 per user per month. It's by the number of salespeople. I want to also mention that it is discounted for nonprofits. And I've also talked to them before. I think if you have a large number of users, you can also talk to them for a discount for large numbers of people. So something else to think about. So once you get that installed, you simply go to the app, go to the Automated Opportunity Contact Role. And it's a pretty slick setup. Like what you're going to see with the screen is the wizards here on the left, and then you have some quick help with some text and guidelines. I think it's pretty well written, easy to follow, and giving you the appropriate guidance. But let's just go through the 2 setup wizard screens. And it also kind of helps explains how this works. So the Automated Opportunity Contact Role setup wizard. So what this app does is when you create an opportunity, you have to add an account to that opportunity. And what this app does is then it goes and it grabs all the contacts on that account and adds them as contact roles for the opportunity that you're creating. So you can see it's asking you a couple questions like, so what's the maximum number of contacts that should be related? So it's 25. You can put any number in there. If you're a small company, you might think, wow, that's a lot. I will never need 25. But again, this is for any shape, size of company. Large enterprise companies could easily have 80 or 100 plus contacts on an account. So it just depends on your situation and if you want to limit that. What criteria should be used if you need to limit the number. So I have it set here for last activity date. I think the other choice here is create date. When a contact role gets added, there's an opportunity to assign a role. And so this one is defaulted to influencer. Again, there's choices in the drop down. And I also have this set to trigger when the opportunity is created. You can also see there's a scheduled job choice here as well. So this is the last screen on the setup. You can see that you can indicate what stage the opportunity gets created at. So if I'm creating an opportunity like prospecting and qualification, those might only have like a 5% chance of going all the way through the opportunity stages. So you might say, you know what, we don't need to add contact roles at that stage. So you can here choose the stages. We'll do it at value proposition, perception analysis, proposal, right? These are here on the right. These are the selected opportunity stages that I want to make sure that contact role is added. And here at the bottom, you can also dictate by opportunity type. So let's just see what that looks like in action. So what I have here is I'm just in a dev org. I have an account called Lumber Inc. And there's one contact in this account. So Bob Frank is on here. And so here on the second step, I'm actually just adding this so you can see my name. I'm the opportunity owner. I choose the account Lumber Inc. in my head, I know that I've got one contact on that. And then I just simply fill out the rest of the opportunity page. So I'm going to add a close date. I see stage is required, fill out all the required fields as I create this new opportunity. And then at the bottom, I just hit save. And there it is. Like I said, here it's created my opportunity, and you can see Bob Frank carried over and was added to my contact role. Honestly, I remember the first time I saw this work when I was testing it. And I remember just thinking, oh my gosh, that was so easy. It's downloading an app, 2 screens for a wizard. Like I said, read through some of the details. And now all my contact roles are created. There's no manual work. There's no like combination of process builder, flow, setups behind the scene. It's just very simple and easy. And so I remember thinking, why is not everybody using this? Because it works. The second item I want to talk about is a Salesforce flow. So this is flows. If you're not familiar with it, a flow is a form of automation tool used by Salesforce. So if I have a bunch of marketers on my presentation today, in Pardot, in the Pardot world, an automation rule is a form of automation. And in Salesforce, flow is a tool for automation. Now, a flow is much, much more powerful than an automation rule. And so you can use it to create a lot of complex business requirements. So I'm going to just walk you through some of the high levels of this flow. I'm still learning flows. Actually, someone helped me with this. Her name was Sophia Davis-Koss. So I just want to call her out. She's from Cloud Masonry. But we kind of walk through it. I explained, I see so many marketers struggling with this. What can we do to get something set up? And so she walked me through and helped me set this up. Now, I am going to walk through the details of this, or sorry, on a high level. You do not need to take screenshots and write everything down, because as I get to the end, I'm actually going to provide a link that says, okay, here's the blueprints, here's the screenshots and a video that goes with it. So you could sit down and create this flow by yourself. So on a high level, let's take a closer look at this flow. It starts at the top. It's a record triggered flow. The majority of the work is in this bottom section. This is where the steps are to add the contact roles to the opportunities. In the upper left, that section there is the area is that if for some reason somebody changes the account, it deletes the current opportunity contact roles and then rejoins and then rejoins, of course, then and follows the process to add the new contact roles for the new account that was added. So like just to go into another level of detail, like I said, it's a record triggered flow, which means that this is triggered when an opportunity is created. And then it immediately launches into a decision. And so from here, like I said, the path choices are, I have like, if the account gets changed, if it identifies this opportunity as a new opportunity, and then I also have a default outcome that actually just dead ends. Here's one screen. I'm just going to show what it looks like for if people have never seen a flow or used it. If I click on this orange node, this is the screen that comes up. And then, like I said, I provide the details of here's how you can fill this out. So I've labeled this account change. And here it shows where if the account ID, the current account ID does not equal the prior account ID, that's the definition. And that's what qualifies to say, oh, I identify and see that this is now a new account. And so this is the decision to go down the path of account changed. Let's just talk about what it looks like in this bottom section. Like I said, this is where most of the work is happening in the flow. So once a new opportunity is created, you can see that I'm going, I'm identifying the account. I'm grabbing all the contacts for that account. I do use a loop, and it also is looping. I have assignments, so I am using variables and collections. And then this is actually creating and going down at the very end. It's actually creating, you can see create OCR. This is the step for actually grabbing all the contacts at the top, flowing through the loop, and then at the bottom, we're creating the opportunity contact role. And then, like I said, this is the path for the account changed. If that flow is active, I actually like this because I kept thinking I'm creating this opportunity. This contact role is getting added right away when that opportunity is created. And sometimes that's a very early stage. So if for some reason that salesperson comes back and a week later and says, oh, I actually added the wrong account. Maybe the account name was very similar. And so they go change the account name. I want to make sure that I have that correction in place. So for the path of when that account changes, we're going to go, it's going to get all the opportunity contact roles on that opportunity. It's going to check to see if it needs to delete it. So you could see if necessary, it sees that the account has changed. It deletes the opportunity contact role. And if you follow the path down, it rejoins and then follows the path for adding those new opportunity contact roles for the correct account. So Courtney, this is where you can help me. So if you could actually just put that in the chat, this is the bit.ly link to like, okay, great. How do you create the Salesforce flow? I actually provided screenshots in a PDF form, and I also have a video. So like I said, I'm actually still new to flows. And so I tried to create this for someone who is similar to me that doesn't have a lot of experience with flows. I don't think marketers tend to have that type of experience. The way I recommend it is to use both, print off the PDFs, have the video split screen. You definitely would want to put this into a sandbox first until you get comfortable with it. When I started, I did not feel comfortable with it. I remember thinking like, I feel like I'm just clicking something and I'm not sure what this is doing. It does take time. So my video is only, I think 15 minutes long. So I don't think you'll have a flow in 20 minutes. I think if it's your first time, it's going to take considerably more time to complete it. And I think that's normal. What my motivating factor was that I really wanted contact roles. Like we have to get these populated because that's where all the important marketing reports come from. And so you really need to work on that to make it happen. So I was very motivated, even though the flow made me a little uncomfortable. I was motivated because I really wanted the results in the reporting. So here's my quick comparison. So for the AppExchange package that I mentioned, I think one of the big positives of that, it's really easy to set up. If you take a look at that flow and you're like, wow, I don't know, because I'm creating variables and collections. I'm not following this. I'm not comfortable with turning this on. That's fine. That's why I liked having two solutions. So then go use the AppExchange. Go check it out. See if you can get a trial on that. The drawback that there is a cost involved for the convenience, rightfully so. But like I said, you can also consider see if you can qualify for a discount. The flow, I think one of the big positives with that is there is no cost to that. But at the same time, there is some fairly complex, flow, especially if you're a beginner. I think it's fairly complex. But the Salesforce flow works in the same way. It goes in, it identifies the account, and it's grabbing all the contacts on that account and adding them as a contact role. So then you're, as a sales or as a marketer, you can be confident that everything is being taken care of on the opportunity side to make sure that you're getting the reporting that you need. So if you want to learn more about flows, here's a trailhead. I've done this one. I think it's really good. It's a good place to start because it gives you starting out with like the definitions and some of the basics. You really need to kind of work through understanding some of those definitions to feel more comfortable with flows. I've also heard this Apex Hours has also some really good training as well. So Courtney, I don't know if you can throw those in the chat if you haven't already. I just can't see your screen. But I think flows warrants some attention now. If you've caught some of the recent announcements, Salesforce has plans to retire Process Builder, and Salesforce has plans to retire workflow rules. And so they're continuing to build out flows. Everything is going to move toward flows. So if you've thought about getting more involved with flows, here's a good place to start. I think the flow I provided, honestly, I think I've done that probably 25 times. I'm getting more comfortable with them. And so now when I do training, it makes sense. I'm like, okay, I understand what that's doing. So now I'm just going to circle back to Erin. So like I said, Erin was, the key thing for her was showing those marketing touch points, what leads they're interacting with and how they converted into opportunities. And I remember I called her because when I decided to do this topic, I said, hey, Erin, I want to highlight and tell your story at Pardot. And she said, oh yeah, no problem. And she said, but I got to tell you something. She goes like, I was just promoted. I'm like, wow, that's awesome. She said, yeah, now she's hiring 2 new employees. So she now has somebody else who's coordinating the events. She's got someone else who's doing the Pardot administration. And she's like, I have a seat at the table. She's like, when I make a recommendation, management listens. She goes, because I have the data, I can show them what's working. I can show them, how, when we focused on certain initiatives, we started doing more of something and less of other marketing initiatives, and we can see the results. And so, like I said, I'm hoping this presentation inspires you and encourages you, and I hopefully to provide some resources and alternatives for you to move forward and get those contact roles added. So if you can, or if you would like to, I'd love for you to, I'm very active on LinkedIn, connect with me, shoot me a message saying, hey, I saw you on Pardot. I'm also on Twitter, or that's my email at the bottom. So thank you. So Courtney, let me know if there's any questions.
Yeah, there are a couple. First off, everybody's super excited about the breakdown of the video and the walkthrough of the flow. So a big thank you from the audience for that. I think a lot of people seem to be asking questions about what's the right amount of contact roles to put on an opportunity. So these solutions are great, but how do we know what the best practice is there? So is it one person, that priority decision maker? Is it adding 25 and representing the account in full? How should people kind of approach that part of the solution?
Yeah, that's a good question. Honestly, I mean, my background is marketing. And so I would want to make sure I had all my bases covered. So that's why, I mean, both the app and the flow, they're going to pull all of them over for you. And so the AppExchange, that gives you, the package gives you a choice to limit them. But I think the more is better because it doesn't hurt. If you pulled over 20 names and you were only interacting with 3, that's no problem. It doesn't hurt anything. You just have a couple extra, you have more contact roles on the opportunity that you need. But I will tell you, if you start limiting it too much, you might have a salesperson that's interacting with 3, 4, 5 people. And if you're only pulling over 2, you're going to lose the connection and the influence on some of the ones you're missing. And you can't tell which one. So I think it's safest and easiest to bring them all over.
That's great perspective. I think sometimes we think of opportunities as the sales tool, right? So we don't want to put more people on that opportunity contact role than we need to, but then it might limit our marketing reporting and showing that greater influence. I think that's
Yes.
Great feedback. I think there was one more I wanted to highlight. Let me see. Oh yeah. Do you have any insight into if someone's retroactively adding people to an opportunity? Let's say it's closed and they want to kind of take the next step in getting that reporting more clean and they're going kind of back through their opportunities that are open or closed. Can you retroactively add those contacts to contact roles to get the reporting and showing that attribution?
Oh, sure. Because you're saying like, I think what I'm hearing is, so correct me, Courtney, is let's just say I'm starting now. And obviously, I'm well into my fiscal year. And so what about all the opportunities that were created last month? That's a really good question. 2 things. Obviously you can use data loader working with your Salesforce administrator to get caught up because both of these flows will work for you going forward. Okay. So once you have the app and once it's for the most part, generally speaking, set up for going forward. With the package, you can use like a last activity date. So I think the package does a better job probably of creeping backwards in time a couple months because depending on your last activity date. Regarding the flow, one little trick that I have seen some companies do. So if you remember, I showed you that if you change the account, that can trigger the flow. So I have actually seen some companies where they're like, oh, we actually have like 30 opportunities and I don't want to add all the people to each one. They'll just go into the opportunity, they change the account and then change it back, which triggers the flow, which deletes and adds the correct opportunity contact rules. So it's just kind of a little trick there if you decide to use the flow.
Yeah, awesome. And one thing kind of very high level is, obviously we're looking at some really great reporting, and that's a good reason why someone in an organization that hasn't used contact rules will want to start using that as part of their overall strategy. But do you have any other tips for the audience on how to like convince that those organizations that are really resistant to adding this step or looking into these solutions in order to change to using that and adopt that functionality in Salesforce?
Right. So you're saying, how do I like, so if a company is resistant to adding contact roles, how, what do you convince them? I mean, it really, I think you could start talking about, like I said, what do your reports look like today? They're going to be very, very simple, right? Because you're going to be able to see only marketing engagement. And so you can I would probably start explaining or showing, here's what our reports could look like. Do you want to tie them to the opportunity revenue? And that's laying that out and talking your management through that, I think is usually kind of a key point. I'll be honest, as a consultant, when I explain to someone what campaign influence is, and I say it ties your marketing initiatives to revenues, a very common reaction is, oh my gosh, yes, we need that. And then from there, they're just obviously having to explain it to their team to try to make it happen.
Yeah, I agree. I think having a marketing team that's equipped with the knowledge of what's influencing sales so that they can, better that relationship, not only with their sales team but also invest that marketing budget into stuff that actually produces revenue, right? That's really the end goal.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And someone was asking too in the flow or the other, the AOCR solution that you showed, can you assign them different roles within contact roles? Can you choose, primary and some of those other items?
Yeah, you can. The flow that I'm providing you is very basic. So the flow I'm showing you, if you follow it, doesn't give you the choice. You're assigning all of them the same role. If you have some experience or anyone in your company that has some experience with flows, I think this would be a good starting point, and then they can probably tweak it appropriately. I'm not worried about the role because with campaign influence, the important thing is getting a name in there, getting a contact role populated. In my example, it was Sal Smith. It really didn't matter what role it was, whether Sal Smith was an influencer or a decision maker. It just means you get the same reporting either way. So I guess I've never invested into that level of specification.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you, Jen. That was an amazing session. I think we all understand the value of contact roles on opportunities for marketers and sales teams and the overall organization. That concludes today's session. For those who are watching, thanks again for joining us. And a special shout out to all of our Pardot sponsors. Without their support, this wouldn't be possible. So make sure to stop in today on their booths and learn more about what they all do, get your points, earn some cool prizes, and you can continue your reporting learning journey this afternoon by joining a session, Data Science and Ad Hoc Reporting from the Pardot API, coming up in a few minutes. Otherwise, head over to the agenda and check out the full list. We'll see you all later. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you. Take care.